Notice me, senpai. Notice me.
Shale Audio, objectively subjective audio reviews.
I don't know.
So what if I smell like roast beef? This whole place smells like roast beef.
Ahoy hoy friends and fellow audioholics. Today I have an exciting, not an exciting review, but hopefully an informative one. I am starting a series of reviews on the Monoprice headphone lineup. The headphone I'll be looking at today is on the extreme end of low-budget headphones. It is an on-ear, single-wire, lightweight headphone from Monoprice. It claims a 36mm dome driver, a frequency response from 20 Hz to 20 kHz, with a sensitivity of 101 decibels per milliwatt, and impedance of 32 ohms at 1 kHz. It sports a built-in microphone with line controls and a standard rubberized cord that measures 47 inches and weighs in at a featherweight 4.5 ounces. With a price typically between $12 and $15, I started this review with fairly low expectations, and mostly hoped that it didn't have a major flaw that made it unusable in any circumstance. While most people do not find the on-ear design to be comfortable, it can really come down to the pads on the headphones and the pressure from the band. In this case, the band is so thin and light that it only puts moderate pressure on the ears. Unfortunately, the pads are thin and offer very little cushion. The band does have some extra cushioning for the top of your head, surprisingly, instead of just hard plastic. I used the JDS Labs OL DAC and Atom amp for this setup. I could have used a better DAC and amp, however I wanted to evaluate these with a reasonable setup for the price. I plan on following this practice as I move through the lineup. Now that we've covered the basics, let's get into how this low-budget headphone sounds. It is hard to say a lot of good things about a low-end headphone like this, and easy to come up with many bad things. The one area that this on-ear excels is the low end. The bass is full and present. While it can be a little flabby, it does have a fair amount of slam. Unfortunately, this is where the positives end. When it comes to the mids and the highs, things go downhill, or rather uphill. The mids and highs are more pronounced in certain ranges, with the mids sounding very loose and a wah-wah-wah sound to them. The high end is there, but for how pronounced they are, there is no sparkle and lackluster detail. I'm a little treble sensitive and had to dial back the volume due to the sharpness and at times piercing treble. The soundstage is very small on these, and while the imaging is okay, there's not much separation due to the soundstage size. By using some Sony MDR XB500 pads, I got much better staging and imaging, and was able to prove its accuracy of the imaging compared to the stock pads. These are massive pillowy pads that look more than a bit out of place on these headphones, but definitely improves the comfort and soundstage with minimal impact to the sound. It tames the sharpness a little bit, but the mids get even a bit more honky. It also requires a few more clicks on the dial to reach the same volume level. If we look at the frequency response curve, it bears this out. I use the ears system for these measurements using the HPN calibration and use the same setup on all of my measurements. While there are better measuring rigs and solutions out there, the main benefit is that I am using the same setup for each headphone, so the measurements are at least comparable. I also measured them with the Sony pads and put the Sivga Phoenix measurement up as a comparison. The low end looks fairly typical with less sub-bass presence, but a decent curve up to the target dB range at 300 Hz. It is at this point that we see the graph shoot up from the mids onward, and it makes sense that we have a shift in quality of sound in terms of the cartoonish mids and sharp upper treble. Now, would I recommend these headphones to anyone? In general, no. Although it would really depend on the budget and what you already have. This set of headphones is basically some good bass and the rest is crap. If you listen to dubstep and are thinking about buying some Skull Candy headphones, maybe go for these instead. So I ended up giving these headphones a 32 out of 80 when looking at price, comfort, quantity, and quality of sound at each level, soundstage, imaging, detail, and build quality. It's definitely a subjective way of scoring things, but it is a starting point. This has been a review of the Monoprice HiFi lightweight on-ear headphones. Product ID 13191. I hope you found this review informative. I will be releasing more reviews covering the Monoprice lineup going forward. I believe I have 14 or 15 of their headphones, including several of their higher-end offerings, including the M1060, M1060C, M1070, M1070C, M1570, and you guessed it, M1570C, as well as some of their middle lines such as the M560 and M570. I won't bother with the like and subscribe spiel. You know how to find me.
I saw their bodies. bodies tossed skyward like ragdolls thrown into the air by the late great Andre the Giant.